if an AI ran the world perfectly, smarter than any human being has ever run the world, maybe they introduce the perfect fiat currency and they eliminate inflation in the fiat currency. So the future AI dollar has zero inflation, but it's a medium of exchange, and it's a great way for people to do accounting and the like. Bitcoin's still going up in value because the technical utility of Bitcoin is going to continue, and the productivity is going to continue. And the truth of the matter is there's always going to be chaos in the physical world. There's always going to be chaos in the political world. And that chaos it devalues currency, it devalues physical property, and it devalues companies because it's happening in the physical world, like that tidal wave. But that chaos is going to increase the value of Bitcoin for two reasons. There's a big idea. The first reason is, as people lose confidence in the countries and the companies and the currencies, and their other assets, they'll run to Bitcoin. That's one reason chaos is an engine for Bitcoin. But the second reason is, if you got drunk and you burned down your building, you would destroy capital. If you got angry and you destroyed your company, or you did a stupid thing, like maybe you produced the wrong product and nobody wanted to buy it and you bankrupted your company, you've destroyed capital. If you start a war and you bomb another country and you wipe out the entire city and all their factories, you've destroyed capital. So chaos in the real world destroys capital. But if you get drunk on a Saturday night and then you go swimming and you lose all your Bitcoin because you drop your hardware wallet in the ocean, or if you forget your seed phrase, or if you have it in your head and someone shoots you and it's gone forever, you've actually not destroyed the value. You've actually accreted the value of everybody else's Bitcoin, right? So chaos that destroys your keys and the Bitcoin that's lost is actually not lost. If I burn down half the buildings in the world, you've destroyed half of the real estate capital in the world. But if I lose half of the Bitcoin stored in hardware wallets or in your keys, I haven't lost anything. I've just doubled the value of everybody else's Bitcoin. So you see, chaos strengthens Bitcoin as an asset class and drives more capital into the asset class, whereas chaos is undermining everything else in the conventional 20th century economy. So that's, why I'm bullish on Bitcoin in general. And I think that as other people learn this, if they figure it out, as the education spreads, then you're owning a bunch of capital and you realize, oh my, I'm exposed to chaos on this side of my portfolio, and I benefit from chaos on this side of my portfolio. There's a famous book called Anti-Fragile, and the whole theory of anti-fragile is things that get stronger under disorder, right? Things that get better under chaos, right? So Bitcoin is that thing getting better under disorder, not getting weaker. And most everything else, every other idea is probably getting weaker under disorder.
And that is actually where I want to take my next question towards, because chaos is all over the world right now. We are looking at a lot of conflicts, armed conflicts, wars, unfortunately. And when I talk to people who are no-coiners, many of them are saying, oh, do you really think it's a good time to buy Bitcoin now, to hold Bitcoin right now? We are looking at a potential recession coming, stock market crash, recession, unemployment rates, armed conflicts, wars, and so on. I personally think Bitcoin was created exactly for that. I think this is fuel to Bitcoin, but many people don't think so. And they put reason behind by saying, okay, there is a positive correlation between the dollar index and the Bitcoin price, or there's a positive correlation between the S&P 500 and the Bitcoin price. How would you address that if people are saying, okay, there is most likely going to be a recession, it's not a smart idea to buy Bitcoin, which I disagree with, but how would you put reason behind that? Or what do you actually think about this kind of argument?
I think that anybody has some capital. Anybody that has capital to invest, they should take a minimum of a minimum of 10-year time horizon. And I really think a 100-year time horizon is the right time horizon to get you to think rationally. So now the question is just, how do you want to have your portfolio allocated? Some mixture of scarce desirable assets. I've already laid out the case for why Bitcoin, I think, is the most scarce, most desirable asset. And if you're not going to hold Bitcoin as the scarce desirable asset, then I think you have to own something else. Like I respect the royal family of Japan or Britain for holding real estate in the middle of their respective cities, right? Tokyo and London. Have a scarce desirable asset you're going to hold forever. I don't think trading is a good idea for anybody other than a professional. So if you look, maybe 0.1% of the people, if you're a professional with proprietary models and proprietary equipment and proprietary access, you might be able to trade. But 99% of people cannot trade successfully. I don't think I can trade successfully. And if you look at the statistics, if you remove 1% of the trading days, the 1% most profitable trading days from your activity, there is no return. Like you would get a 7 or 8% return per year on stock portfolios if you just hold them for 100 years. But if you take out 2 days a year or 3 days a year, you actually get a negative return if you take out the 3 best days. So if you don't guess the 3 best days, if you're not long the 3 best days out of 365, there is no return. So statistically, 99% of the time, someone's telling you to trade, but you shouldn't. And 1% of the time, everything moves, but generally people can't predict when that 1% is. It'll happen when you least expect it. So trading is, in my opinion, a fool's errand. I think it's a very dangerous thing. And most people are going to squander their capital because they're going to try to outsmart the market. And I think stock picking is equally challenging. I just laid out there's 7,000 publicly traded companies. If you take out the 7 best ones, there is no return. 99.9% of the companies can't beat inflation. Okay, so we know which ones can, like Apple, Google. But the question is, did you know that 10 years ago, the reason I was able to buy 17,000 Bitcoin is because I was able to pick Google and Apple and Amazon in 2010 and hold it for a decade with a lot of money, right? But on the other hand, if you picked Amazon in the summer of 2020, you didn't make any money. You know what happened in the summer of 2020? Like, I tell you a real story. It's like when my 3 or 4-year-old niece, when she said to me, I like the Big Apple. This was like 2010 or 2008. I said, wow, it's a young girl and she's saying she likes Apple. This means Apple's a big deal. We should load up on the stock. And that was when 98% of the world or 99% of the world didn't agree. And they thought it was a stupid idea. And Apple was valued at like 8 times cash flow, and you could have bought it 100x from there or something, just ridiculous. But I thought, yeah, this is a good idea. And I wrote this book, The Mobile Wave. And I actually tell the story in the first chapter of The Mobile Wave about how, my young niece thought Apple was amazing. She called the Big Apple, that was the iPad. And I thought, the Big Apple had been New York City, and now the Big Apple is iPad, and this is a big change in wealth. Okay, so that was a good entry point because nobody agreed, but it was unstoppable. That's what I say. The best investment is something everybody needs, nobody can stop, but nobody understands. Right? That's what Apple was. That was what Facebook was. That was what Amazon was in 2008, 2010. Now, in the summer of 2020, you know what my niece told me? She said, I'm buying Amazon stock. Everybody knows it's a winner because everybody's in lockdown and they're all basically ordering, like they're ordering their food in, they're ordering their groceries in. Okay, so everybody knows every 20-something investor, every Gen Z person knows that they should buy those stocks. Well, it didn't work, right? Because everybody knew it. Everybody agreed. Everybody needed it, but everybody understood they needed it. And so, in fact, what you've got 36 months later is you have all the logistics challenges, the supply chain challenges, the labor challenges, the inflation challenges, the manufacturing challenges, and everybody needs it. And everybody understands it. But, you know, if the criteria was, do you need it and do you understand it? The richest people in the world would be investors in water companies and electricity companies, because everybody in New York City needs water and power. But name me one billionaire in the 21st century that's a water billionaire or electricity billionaire, you know? And the reason why is because everybody understands it. And once everybody understands it, it's getting regulated. And once it gets regulated, it's not an unregulated monopoly. It's a regulated monopoly. They're not going to raise their prices. And people, you know, people aren't going to, they pay less for their electricity or whatever than they're going to pay for their whatever favorite streaming video thing that's the fad. So, you know, I think that when people, they talk about, oh, the recession's coming or whatever, they're attempting to outstock pick the market. They're attempting to outtrade the market. They're feeding on your gloom and doom. What do they want you to do? Sell your scarce desirable assets and buy the dollar? They want you to go short. Are you going to sell London real estate to buy the dollar? No, or they want you to sell your desirable assets and give the money to them. It's like, I wouldn't trust anybody that basically comes to me with doom and gloom and fear and says, whatever your idea is going to zero, so give me your money. You see, the difference is I'm not asking for your money. I'm telling you, keep it yourself. Just, you know, don't blow it. So if all these things happen, then the governments of the world are going to print more money to solve the problem. If there's war, if there's recession, they're going to print more money and it'll drive up the value of scarce desirable assets. If none of these things happen, they're still going to print more money, right? In good years, they're going to inflate the currency supplies, and bad years, they're going to inflate the currency supply more. And, you know, if you look back for the past 100 years, if you could have bought an acre of real estate in New York or London or Tokyo, at what point would you have sold it? Never. There would have been booms and busts and crises and recessions and whatever. But, you know, the only winning strategy is you hold the most desirable asset for the longest period of time and you let everybody else panic sell. And I think that's the case with Bitcoin right now. I mean, you hold on to it and let everybody else, you know, trade 7,000 different razor blades.
Yeah. Beautiful. I really like the story you just told about her. Very, 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 very beautiful. And I want to pick up on that. I mean, we are approaching the